Hello everyone, welcome to this third part of our series focusing on various signs in radiology. So just to introduce myself, I am Dr. Zainab Vora. I have done my MPS and MD radiology from All India Institute of Medical Sciences, New Delhi. I had the good fortune of achieving rank 1 in the AIMS and NIMHANS exams in the year 2015. So I'm here as an educator on Unacademy. So just to talk very briefly about the various courses that I have to offer on this platform. So in the month of June, we've just concluded the series which is focusing on integrated clinical radiology, particularly the emergencies, which is one of the most important topics for all the PG entrances. So we have tried to take an integrated approach covering various subjects, focusing on emergencies in this particular course, and this is the link to that course. Another course which I have upcoming is a test and discussion course, which will be like a crash course for the entire subject of radiology, where we'll be talking about multiple important topics of radiology in a test and discussion format. Alright, so this will be spanning across 2 months, in the months of July and August, and I'll tell you the details on the Telegram group, the link of which is right here. So this is the Unacademy NEET PG live group. It's a group on Telegram where I regularly give updates regarding my classes. We also regularly post a lot of MCQs focusing on important topics. So all the educators basically will give their updates on this group. So all the PG aspirants out there, make it a point that you are a part of this group. Alright, so apart from these plus courses, I will be having free live classes for everybody on the Unacademy app every Wednesday and Friday at 7 p.m. in the month of July. Alright, so here we'll be talking about multiple important topics each time. So make it a point that you guys are attending this free class. Okay, apart from that, we have the YouTube ritual focusing on high yield radiology sign review, as you all know about. So follow me on the Unacademy app so that you will get updates about my up and coming classes regularly. Okay, so very briefly to talk about the app. So Unacademy basically, as you know, has a lot of online live classes where all the educators get to interact with the live learners at the same time. So it becomes a very interesting interactive session, which is not the USP of Unacademy. So if you want to be a plus member of Unacademy and get access to all the classes by all the educators, you can use this code, which is ZVORA, to get a 10% discount. Okay, so this is basically the outline of the app. You can check it out. You can download the app or check it out on the laptop so that you have a better idea of all the things that it has to offer. Alright, and this is this is the method of how to subscribe for the plus courses. So you can have a variety of time frames for which you can try it out, and then as per your stage of preparation, you can opt for the package. Alright, so coming to our sign of the day, today we're going to talk about pulmonary aspergillus infection. Alright, so the question of the day is, all of the following signs are associated with pulmonary aspergillus infection except. So all those who are attending this premiere can type it in the live chat, others can type it in the comment section. Alright, whatever answer you think is the odd one out here. So all the signs associated with pulmonary aspergillus infection except. So what are the options? We have the halo sign, we have bird's nest sign, Cumbo sign and monad sign. So what do you guys think is the answer? Type in your answers. I'll just wait for a few seconds here. So all those of you who attended the last class on hydatid cyst, the answer will be pretty clear to you all. So the correct answer is Cumbo sign. So Cumbo sign basically is seen in the pulmonary hydatid. Alright, so what happens in Cumbo sign basically is, I have the 3 layers of hydatid. Correct, I have the pericyst, ectocyst and endocyst. So basically there will be air which will be outlining these two membranes or these two layers, which will appear like these two waves, which is also called the onion peel sign. Okay, so this is also called the onion peel sign and also called the Cumbo sign. So this particular sign is associated with pulmonary hydatid and not associated with our pulmonary aspergillus infection. Alright. So those of you who have missed out on the class on hydatid, make it a point that you go and see that video after this particular class, where we've covered a lot of high yield signs covering hydatid cyst. Okay, so now let's talk about aspergillus infection. Okay, so the entire point of all these review sessions is not just to throw at you various names of the signs. No, my aim is that you understand the topic in depth. So we covered hydatid in depth, we discussed bronchiectasis in depth. So similarly today our aim is to get into the depths of aspergillus infection, particularly pulmonary aspergillus infection and its various manifestations. Okay, so I want you all to understand this topic entirely, such that any question which is coming from this particular topic, no matter whether it's from radiology or any other subject, I want you guys to get that right. Okay, so let's start with some micro. So which is the most common species of aspergillus that affects human beings? Type in your answer, guys. What do you think is the most common species of aspergillus that affects us? So the answer is Aspergillus fumigatus. Alright, just remember this is the most common species which affects us. Okay, now coming to the main deal, which is the types of pulmonary aspergillus infection. So remember, pulmonary aspergillus has a variety of manifestations, a variety of appearances depending on the immune status of the host and also the kind of lung that it is involving. So the status of the lung and the immune status of the host will affect the kind of infection that aspergillus presents as. Okay, so let's look at that. So the first type will be aspergilloma. Okay, aspergilloma, which is also called fungal ball. Okay, aspergilloma is also called as fungal ball. So what aspergilloma is basically a secondary colonization. It is not an invasive infection, it is a saprophytic infection or a colonization of a lung which has these pre-existing cavities. Now, what are the settings in which the lung has cavitation? What are the conditions which produces cavity in the lung? What do you think, guys? Type in your answers. So in our country, remember, the most common cause of cavitation is tuberculosis. Alright, so most common cause is TB. Apart from that, there are various other causes like sarcoidosis, rheumatoid arthritis, and ankylosing spondylitis. So these are few of the common causes which produces cavitation in the lung. Okay, so what happens is when the lung has these pre-existing cavities, the aspergillus will come and secondarily colonize it, forming this fungal ball. So all this debris that you are seeing which has settled into the cavity, forming a kind of a fungal ball. Okay, so this is, remember, not an invasive infection, it is a colonization by saprophytic fungi and it produces this fungal ball. Also remember, this fungal ball will be mobile. So if you change the position of the patient while imaging, for example, you've done this X-ray in PA view and then you ask the patient to go in the decubitus position, we'll see that the fungal ball moves in again the most dependent location. Okay, so remember, this fungal ball, as the name suggests, it's a ball which is mobile within the cavity. So it will move such that it will go in the most dependent location of the patient. So remember this fact. So what does this produce? The kind of appearance it produces, that you know that cavity is something which is filled with air, correct? So if I have a fungal ball which is made up of soft tissue and then I have a crescent of air which remains in the non-mobile or in the non-dependent location. Basically this is a non-dependent location, this is a dependent fungal ball. So this produces something which is called air crescent sign. Okay, this is something which is called air crescent sign. So those of you who attended the hydatid class, remember that air crescent sign is also seen with our hydatid cyst, correct? So even hydatid cyst can produce this air crescent sign. So let's talk about the various differentials of air crescent sign. Alright, so one, as we talked about, is hydatid cyst. So basically our hydatid cyst which is ruptured will have air in the non-dependent location and the various membranes of hydatid, the various daughter cysts and the various layers of hydatid will all collapse into this soft tissue. Alright, so hydatid is one of the differentials. The most important differential I want you to remember is Rasmussen aneurysm. What is Rasmussen aneurysm, guys? It is a cavity. It is a tubercular cavity which has an aneurysm. It has a pseudo aneurysm which is produced by the pulmonary artery. So what happens is, because of this inflammation that has been induced by our tubercular bacteria at the area of the cavity, the arteries undergo erosion and then they rupture to form a contained sort of rupture, which is nothing but the pseudoaneurysm. Okay, so pseudoaneurysm is a globular focal enlargement of the vessel which is not formed by all the layers of the artery. Alright, hence the name pseudoaneurysm. Alright, so what will happen is, this aneurysm, which is nothing but a layer of the vessel, a focal contained rupture of the vessel, which is the pseudoaneurysm, which will project into the cavity. Okay, so this is a blood filled cavity with the air of the cavity again forming a crescent. So this is very, very important. Where do you see Rasmussen's aneurysm? One, associated with tuberculosis. What is the vessel which is forming the pseudoaneurysm? Again a potential question. It is the pulmonary artery. Okay. Also remember here, what is Rasmussen's encephalitis? Do not confuse this with Rasmussen's encephalitis. It is something which is completely different. Alright, not related to tuberculosis in any way. Okay, so just have this association broadly of these terms. Okay, so apart from hydatid Rasmussen's aneurysm, any cavitating neoplasm, basically any cavitating neoplasm. So what happens here? We originally start with a solid lesion, okay, a solid neoplasm, but slowly it undergoes cavitation. There is air within it, and air, as you know, has the property of going in the non-dependent location. So here it will again form a air crescent sign. Okay, so these are the various differentials of an air crescent sign. Okay, also remember, another name of air crescent sign is something which is not very well heard of. That is the monad sign, which is there in your options, correct? So this is the air crescent sign or the monad sign, okay, which will be seen with aspergilloma. Okay, is this clear, guys? Are we all together till now? Give me a thumbs up in the live chat if you guys are all understanding. If you have any doubt, you can always type it in the comment section and I'll reach out to you. Okay, so this was about aspergilloma, where our lung had cavities and then it was secondary colonization of Aspergillus infection. Now what else can we have? We already talked about this in our bronchiectasis session, which is allergic bronchopulmonary aspergillosis. Okay, again, this is actually a hypersensitivity reaction. Remember, this is a type 1 and type 3 hypersensitivity reaction against the aspergillus. Okay, what kind of patients does it affect? So it typically tends to affect patients, young individuals who have asthma. Okay, and there will be proximal bronchiectasis, basically proximal bronchiectasis, which will be filled with this high attenuating mucus. So if you remember that image, there was a sign which is called the toothpaste sign, correct? So there will be proximal bronchiectasis which will be filled with this high attenuation mucus or hyperdense mucus, okay, which tends to produce this finger in glove appearance. Okay, so two signs associated with ABPA are hypersensitivity reaction seen with asthmatics, also seen with cystic fibrosis patients. There will be proximal bronchiectasis with attenuating mucus within it, which will have this appearance of finger in glove appearance on either CT or X-rays. Alright, so this is something which is a hypersensitivity reaction. Alright, again, not an invasive reaction. Okay, now what happens when we have an immunocompromised host? So remember, if I have an immunocompromised host, there can be two kinds of invasive aspergillus infection. Okay, this is where our invasive aspergillus will set in setting of immunocompromised host. So it can either be angioinvasive, where the aspergillus attacks the vessel. There can be angioinvasive aspergillosis, or there can be airway invasive aspergillosis. Okay, airway invasive aspergillosis. Here it will involve the airways. Okay, so what happens in angioinvasive aspergillus basically is that there will be infection of the aspergillus within the lung. For example, this is the nodule where the aspergillus is completely infected. So there will be basically invasion of the adjacent vessels and there will be hemorrhage. Okay, it will attack the vessels and there will be adjacent hemorrhage around that nodule of infection. So this is what typically produces our very well known halo sign. So remember, halo sign is associated with angioinvasive infection. Very rarely it can have the reverse halo sign, where what will happen is the reverse of this. So I will have a dense consolidation in the periphery but a ground glass in the center. So this is the reverse halo or the atoll sign. We'll talk about these signs in detail as we go along. So this is called the reverse halo or the atoll sign. Okay, remember this. Alright, so this is our angioinvasive, where our blood vessels are affected. Remember, it is seen with immunocompromised host. So typically you'll get this history of either HIV/AIDS being the patient, clinical history, or you will have neutropenia. So neutropenia is one of the most important causative risk factor for angioinvasive or airway invasive aspergillus infection. So you'll get history of neutropenia. Your absolute neutrophil count will be less than 500. Okay, so any sort of immunocompromised status, remember they are more predisposed to invasive aspergillus infection. What will happen in airway invasive is we'll be seeing tracheobronchitis. Okay, so there'll be infection, there'll be invasion of the airways. So basically there'll be tracheal and bronchial thickening that you'll be seeing. Very rarely what you can have is there'll be complete obstruction of the bronchi, and that can lead to collapse. Okay, so you can have complete collapse because of bronchial obstruction, or you can have something which is called the tree in bud nodules. Okay, so what are tree in bud nodules? It is basically secondary airway spread. So when this particular aspergillus undergoes spread into the tiny airways, when it goes through the tiny bronchioles up to the most terminal bronchioles, it will produce this appearance which is called the tree in bud appearance. So remember, tree in bud is nothing but endobronchial spread of any infection. You must have heard of tree in bud in context with tuberculosis, correct? But it is not just associated with TB. Remember this. Any endobronchial spread of any infection will produce the sign which is called tree in bud sign. Okay, so these are basically the four main patterns. Apart from this, just remember there is also something which is the semi-invasive. Okay, so I have patients who are predisposed to infection, but they do not have such weak immune system. So they are able to fight the infection to a certain extent, and hence they produce this kind of semi-invasive aspergillosis. It does not have any typical appearance. So just remember there is something which is called semi-invasive aspergillosis also. Okay, so is this clear to you guys? This broad spectrum of the variety of manifestations that aspergillus can have. It can have a secondary colonization to form aspergilloma. Hypersensitivity towards it from the body will produce ABPA. And if the immunocompromised host is there, it can either invade the vessels to produce angioinvasive aspergillosis or invade the airways to form airway invasive aspergillosis. And somewhere in between, we have the semi-invasive aspergillosis, which does not have any specific appearance. So now let's look at important images. Alright, so who will tell me what this sign is showing here? What is this sign which is shown here? So can you all appreciate that in the right upper zone, I have this well-defined cavity within which there is a soft tissue density. So this is nothing but the fungal ball. Alright, so this is nothing but our air crescent sign, also called the monad sign, correct? So this is how it looks on X-ray. Can you all appreciate this crescent of air? So this is the cavity, this is the air crescent, and this is the soft tissue nodule. Quickly recapitulating the DDs. Basically, what will be the differentials for this? We will have a hydatid cyst, we will have cavitating neoplasms, and Rasmussen's aneurysm. Okay. Now coming to CT. So CT, what do I see here? Again, I see a cavity, and can you all appreciate this crescent of air in the non-dependent location? Can you all appreciate this crescent of air which I just covered with green? So this is again the air crescent sign seen in CT. Okay, just remember these appearances. This is very, very important. Okay, now coming to our angioinvasive aspergillosis. So I told you two signs with angioinvasive aspergillosis. We have a halo sign, okay, and we have something which is the reverse halo sign. Both of these signs can be seen with angioinvasive. Obviously, halo sign is more specifically seen. The term reverse halo or the atoll sign was typically described for something which is called organizing pneumonia. Okay, so remember this was typically described for organizing pneumonia, but this can be associated with angioinvasive aspergillosis. Apart from this, in the recent times, it's very relevant that COVID-19 most typically has this reverse halo type of appearance. Okay, so COVID-19 pneumonitis has this appearance of reverse halo. We'll just look at what it looks like. All right, so it will be basically opposite of this, where I will have peripheral dense opacity and central ground glass opacity. Okay, so remember just these two differentials which are more typical for reverse halo. Okay, so now coming to our description of the halo sign. So what is halo sign? As you can appreciate in this particular CT, which is what? Which is our lung window or our high resolution CT. Okay, so just remember these phrases. It is something where I want to see the lung parenchyma. So I change the window such that everything else becomes white. I can get to see the tiny things which are going on with the lung parenchyma. So whenever you see the lung parenchyma and rest of it appears white, it is either the lung window or it's a high resolution CT focusing on the lung parenchyma. So coming back to these opacities, can you see these multifocal opacities here? So what am I seeing? I'm seeing the central dense opacity and then I'm seeing a peripheral halo. Can you appreciate how beautifully I can see the halo here? So this halo, this density is called ground glass opacity. So this is the in phase right now, correct? With COVID, we tend to describe COVID as ground glass opacity. So this is what is ground glass opacity. What has given rise to ground glass opacity? It is the hemorrhage. Okay, it is the hemorrhage around this particular nodule, which is the aspergillus infection because of angioinvasion, which has given rise to this halo of ground glass opacity. Is this clear, guys? Is this clear why this particular sign is seen? Alright, so this is the halo sign. Now, halo sign again is not specific for our angioinvasive aspergillosis. Again, it will have something which is differentials. What are the differentials? Where all can it be seen? So, it can be seen with any fungal infection, not just aspergillus, any angioinvasive fungal infection or any angioinvasive viral infection for that matter can produce a halo sign. Okay, apart from that, Wegener's granulomatosis. Again, in Wegener's, you have a lot of hemorrhage because it's a vasculitis. So there will be hemorrhage around the nodules. Also, the nodules can undergo cavitation. So remember, Wegener's granulomatosis or granulomatosis with polyangiitis, as it's now called, will have these nodules which will have surrounding hemorrhage, and they can also be nodules with secondary cavitation. Okay, apart from that, adenoCA. Remember, adenoCA in the lung can have this halo sign. Okay, and we can have hemorrhagic metastasis. Okay, so hemorrhagic metastasis can also produce the halo sign. So remember the list of differentials for halo sign that you have apart from angioinvasive aspergillosis. But if you are given this typical case scenario where you have an immunocompromised host with neutropenia and you are given this appearance, it is pathognomic for angioinvasive aspergillosis. Alright, now what about this? I am giving you a history of a person who had head trauma, who had persistent nasal discharge. I took a tissue paper and this was the sign that I saw. So what is the diagnosis? Again, here I see something which is the halo sign. So I am just trying to correlate the various halo signs for you guys. So what happens? This is a condition which is CSF rhinorrhea. So remember, in CSF rhinorrhea we have the halo sign where the blood will accumulate in the center and the CSF will produce this particular peripheral halo because it has a lower density than blood and it will go towards the periphery of this blotting paper. Okay, so this is the halo sign seen in CSF rhinorrhea. One more important frequently asked question: what is the most specific test for seeing CSF rhinorrhea? So it is testing for beta-2 transferrin levels. Okay, so it is beta transferrin levels in the secretion basically which will diagnose CSF rhinorrhea most specifically. Okay, so just a correlation of halo sign. Apart from this, there are various other places in radiology where we get to see the halo sign. Okay, so this is actually a carotid artery. So I have done an ultrasound of the carotid artery. So can you see this well-defined wall? Can you see this halo-like wall of the vessel? So this is the anechoic center of the wall and this is basically the wall. So this is the lumen actually. So this is the lumen and I am seeing this concentric wall thickening of the artery here. So this forms a kind of halo and this is associated with large vessel vasculitis. Okay, so remember this is associated with large vessel vasculitis. Okay, so typically seen with Takayasu arthritis and our giant cell arthritis. So remember, these two conditions will produce this halo sign. This is also called the macaroni sign. Okay, just remember this. I'm just giving you a lot of information, but once you revise this, it will be very clear to you. So this particular sign is also called the macaroni sign because it tends to resemble something like a macaroni. If I tell you this is the liver ultrasound and I'm seeing again this halo sign here, what will be your diagnosis? So remember, this is associated with metastasis of liver. Okay, so halo sign in liver, where I see this hypoechoic rim around the nodule. Can you appreciate this is the nodule and this is the hypoechoic? Hypo means darker. So a darker rim around this whiter nodule is the halo sign associated with metastasis to the liver. Okay, now coming to thyroid. So again I have an ultrasound image. So this is the thyroid basically. This is the carotid artery. So here if you again correlate this, can you see that I cannot see the wall at all here. Wall is very thin. But in vasculitis, because again it's an inflammation of the vessel wall, I am seeing vessel wall thickening. Alright, so just a correlation basically. So this is the carotid artery, this is the thyroid, this is the isthmus, and this is the trachea. So this is the right lobe of thyroid basically. What am I seeing within the thyroid? I am seeing a very well defined hyperechoic nodule, which has what? Which has a thin rim of hypoechoic. Let me just erase this so you can appreciate this. Can you see this hypoechoic rim around the thyroid nodule? So this is a feature of benign nodule of thyroid. Okay, so you have malignant and benign nodules. There is a scheme which is there to describe these nodules. Like you have BI-RADS for breast, you have TI-RADS for thyroid. Okay, so you have variety of features which can help us distinguish benign and malignant nodules on ultrasound, which is given schematically in the system of TI-RADS. Okay. So remember, this thin halo sign is associated with benign nodules in thyroid. So we have drifted completely, but it's a good revision for various things which show halo sign. Okay, so coming to this, now can you appreciate what is this sign here, guys? Type in your comments. What is this sign I'm seeing? Can you appreciate the reverse halo now? Now whatever ground glass was there in the periphery has now come to the center. So this is the reverse halo or the atoll sign. Alright, so three things where we will see this. Again, angioinvasive fungal can rarely have this. Our COVID-19, which is so very important right now, and our organizing pneumonia, where it was originally described. Okay, is this clear, guys? Is this clear? So this is, remember this appearance of reverse halo, the complete opposite of our normal halo sign. Okay, one more sign associated with angioinvasive fungal infection is the bird's nest sign. Okay, it's the bird's nest sign. Let me just did not write this properly. So it is the bird's nest sign. Okay, so can you see here the central cavitation which is all developed appears like the nest of a bird. Okay, so remember this is more specifically associated with mucormycosis. Okay, this is more commonly associated with mucormycosis, which is also a fungal infection of the lung rather than aspergillus. So just remember, all fungal infection which are invading basically the vessels will produce this bird's nest sign. Alright, also remember air crescent sign, we saw it in our aspergilloma. But also remember that when an angioinvasive fungal infection is improving, when the patient is improving, what will the body do? It will tend to produce necrosis against the fungus. So whenever there is necrosis, there will be air which is forming. Alright, so this particular air will also be formed in the end stage. Basically, in the stages of recovery of patients with angioinvasive fungal infection, we can also have the air crescent sign. Just remember this. Air crescent also associated with aspergilloma, but can also be seen in angioinvasive fungal infection and indicates a good prognosis. It indicates a sign of recovery. Okay, so just remember this important fact. Alright, so what do I see here, guys? What is this? Type in your comments. What am I seeing? These tiny nodules. So this is nothing but the tree in bud nodules. Alright, this is the tree in bud nodules, and what does it represent? It represents endobronchial spread of any infection which is spreading by the bronchi, spreading by the airway. So in this case we have our airway invasive aspergillosis. It can be TB, it can be any infection which is spreading through the bronchioles. So can you see how it's arranging itself in the form of tiny bronchi? Alright, so this is, remember, the tree in bud appearance. Do not forget this appearance, guys. Okay, remember this kind of branching kind of pattern of lung opacity which is associated with airway invasive aspergillosis. Alright, very quickly, very familiar image. What do I have here? I am seeing this kind of appearance of a finger in glove. So what is this? This is proximal bronchiectasis with impacted mucus giving rise to the finger in glove appearance in allergic bronchopulmonary aspergillosis. I'm not going to go into details of this because we've already talked about it. Those who missed out on the session on bronchiectasis, go and check it out. Alright, you just search my name and Unacademy and you will find the session on bronchiectasis. So just a very quick overview for the various types of aspergillus. So pathophysiology, what do we have in aspergilloma? So I have a pre-existing cavity where there is secondary colonization. Alright, secondary colonization of aspergillus. Risk factor will be pre-existing cavity. Correct? It will be pre-existing cavity in the setting of TB, sarcoid, rheumatoid, Angst-Pond. Alright, any cavity which is there can lead to secondary colonization. Imaging appearance, I have the air crescent sign. Correct, air crescent sign or the monad sign here. Clinical features, so most of the patients will be asymptomatic. Alright, patients will be asymptomatic because it's not invading anything. Patients will not have any symptoms. Rarely they can have hemoptysis. Okay, rarely they can have hemoptysis when this fungal colonization basically induces an inflammatory reaction with the wall of the cavity. Alright, there will be vessels which will be passing along the wall basically, and they might induce this inflammatory reaction and rarely produce hemoptysis. So coming to the treatment, so when patient is asymptomatic, you do nothing. If patient has hemoptysis, the hemoptysis can be stopped by a procedure which is called bronchial artery embolization, where the arteries which are leading to the hemoptysis can be blocked. Alright, we'll talk about this in detail some other time. So just remember, hemoptysis should be treated. Asymptomatic patients do not need any form of treatment. Coming to ABPA. So what is ABPA? It's a type 1 or type 3 hypersensitivity reaction against the aspergillus by our body. Risk factors will be asthma or cystic fibrosis. So asthma is much more common than cystic fibrosis as a risk factor. Imaging appearance, two signs we already talked about in detail. We have the finger in glove appearance on X-ray or CT, or I have the toothpaste sign, which is because of the high attenuating mucus. Clinical features, again they will have cough. So we know the ASPER criteria. Those of you missed it, again go to the bronchiectasis class. So patients will produce cough with these brown typical sort of flaky mucus. Okay, so this will be the typical history, and there will be V's which will be associated. Treatment, again you do not have to give antifungals. Alright, treatment will be steroids for ABPA because it's a hypersensitivity reaction. Alright, now coming to our angioinvasive and airway invasive. In both of these, the pathophysiology is basically our invasion of the aspergillus. So this is an invasive type of infection. What are the risk factors? So immunocompromised host will be the common risk factor for both, particularly our neutropenia. Alright, so any case of febrile neutropenia, where you have neutropenia and patient presents to you with fever with an ANC of less than 500. So always we have to do a CT or an X-ray to rule out invasive aspergillosis. Alright, imaging appearance. So we have the halo sign, or we have the reverse halo sign. Okay, or the atoll sign basically, or the bird's nest sign. Correct, all of this we have already seen, just revising. So all of these signs can be seen. Also remember the caveat here, the air crescent sign can be seen, which will be a sign of recovery. Remember this, it will be a good prognostic factor indicating recovery. Alright, what will be the clinical feature? Patient will present with hemoptysis. All right, patient will have cough, patient will have hemoptysis because the blood vessels are getting invaded. Patient can have respiratory distress. So for both of these invasive infections, we have to treat with antifungals targeting Aspergillus. All right, coming to airway invasive, so we will have tree bud appearance with endobronchial spread. I can have thickening, diffuse thickening of the trachea or the bronchi, or I can have collapse if the bronchus is completely occluded. Alright. Clinical feature, again patient will present with dyspnea because our airways are getting involved. So dyspnea, hemoptysis will be the similar features in both the invasive kind of antifungals. Alright, so is this entire spectrum of Aspergillus infection clear, guys? No confusion between the various entities. I hope it is clear. If you have any doubts, you can always reach out to me in the comment section. So that's it from my side. So keep calm and continue learning, guys. Wishing you all the best and keep learning. And if you have any doubts, obviously you know where to reach me. Alright guys, thank you so much.